What's up, guys? I see y'all waiting on me here today. I got a fun project. I've been waiting to get this started. Y'all might remember a couple of years ago I did a golf cart conversion where I went from the original electric setup, which I didn't have at the time. I acquired an entire club car for like $140 on eBay. 2.5 hour drive there, 2.5 hours back. I had the whole golf cart minus electronics and body. So my goal was to put a go-kart engine on this thing and get the sucker running. I accomplished that goal. Did not like the results. I was doing 5 to 8 miles an hour with the setup. Was not happy with it. I had made a homemade body. Still wasn't happy with it. So I decided it's time to redo this thing and go for more power. Hence the whole thing of hot rod golf cart. Not the super power of a sport bike engine, but I am putting considerably more power into this thing, adding a lot more custom touches, and kind of just redoing the whole thing to make it more functional and really to go faster. Why don't I get y'all off this tripod, walk y'all around, let's kind of go ahead and see what I've already done, what my future goals are, and how we're going to make this thing actually look cool. Well, alright, here we go. Looking at the front, if you notice, this thing has actually got a body of sorts. What I picked up is, I'm guessing this is what they call, I believe it's the F-150 body. It's not the best condition, but for the price, I really couldn't hesitate. It was $50 for the whole front nose. Let me see if I can get y'all in here nice and tight. You kind of notice there's a bunch of cracking, chips. This feels like a thin layer of Bondo or something. It's definitely not paint, so I'm guessing some kind of body filler. But you see, get y'all in there. You kind of still see the original body lines. There's some cracks in this. I mean, it's not a perfect body. But whatever, I believe this is the F-150 body, but this will become the new VW. Kind of the stuff I'm goofing around with. I wanted a real body on this cart, but not stock. So for 50 bucks, I ended up buying this front clip. Ended up spending another 50. Ended up getting the rear stock half the body. Unfortunately, didn't have another front to match this. If you got the actual F-150 kit, it's like around $2,000. That's plus tax, plus shipping, etc. So I was happy. Got the whole rear body for this thing. The stock body, I ended up paying $100 total. Didn't even argue with the guy because still I thought this front end was the deal, minus all the work fabrication I got to do to make it fit correctly because it is fiberglass. Well, also the guy threw in, since I didn't really argue with him about the price, I got asking him about a stock motor because I really need the coupling off that. He threw in a stock motor which was complete until I got my hands on it. And I'll kind of explain that here in a minute, why that's been disassembled. But the whole reason why starting this video is this right here. If you notice this is the 6.5 horsepower Predator motor, Harbor Freight Special. Paid $119.99 off sale, which is normally $99.99 on sale. You notice it's kind of hooked up, been set back here with this crazy mount that I made, because I had built like a pickup truck body for it. This was part of the resting for the motor, which is just some angle iron I welded. There's some parts that are bolted, and I can't remember if I don't think I did a video on this on the original series, or I might have. This right here y'all would recognize. This should have been in one of my last 2 videos I did on the conversion, which was a front motor brace going to like a 1/4-inch steel plate that I had laying around. Then all I did was just really come off of that, do a kind of a retarded body mount. I didn't really care for it. I didn't really like it. One of the major things why I didn't like it back here, not only is the motor all the way to the back tail of this thing, but with a high acceleration, the torque, you'd actually feel the motor bend forward. And if some of y'all might remember, if you've been keeping up with some of the stuff on my channel, this is my tensioner right here. I love that idea, removing the stock shocks and just using some thread all just to really take the springiness out the rear. And it was the tensioner. And what I mean by that, as you've seen, like right here, here's the motor itself, and the way it was powered, which is like a lot of ways you would see this thing done on YouTube. Cut a little notch here in the back, and see if I can get y'all in there. Right there is the output shaft right into my finger. And what a lot of guys were doing was taking little stock gear like this, and then we're just bringing them up and just kind of welding them onto here. But if you notice, one thing I did in one of my other videos on this thing is right down here I cut a keyway into this, so that way the keyway would line up. Yeah, pardon those ugly welds, I don't know what I was thinking that day. But the whole point was to slide this on here and have it so it's removable. In the future, a lot of guys will just come in and weld the gear directly, or build something like what I did and weld it to this. And after a lot of research, from what I found, if I ever wanted to change the gearing in here, like right now I'm set at 12-to-1 stock, to go down to 8-to-1 or 6-to-1, you have to be able to pull this out. So if I'm going to spend $300 or $400 to have this thing re-geared, I don't want to have to chop the original. But the idea of what I come up with, and if y'all stay tuned to all this series, you're going to kind of see, it's kind of like right here. This half right here is part of the stock. This would be the motor coupler, and the motor shaft itself comes part way in here and is pressed. Well, what I did was I ended up drilling a hole, I'm trying to remember the exact size. Offhand, I'm sorry guys, I'm kind of getting forgetful tonight. But I believe this was, it's ½ inch, no, 3/4. Ended up drilling it, mounting this shaft in here, which was going to become later part of my assembly. Ended up finding that my table on my drill press was off a hair, so I ended up going just a little coupler. And well, I'm not going to give away everything. We're going to work on everything kind of together. But this is basically an idea of mine, to have it where have a keyway shaft going into a coupler to a pillow block, so that way we kind of keep that gear where it can be moved, it can be adjusted. But getting back on track, one of the major things we're going to do in this series is this whole axle has to come out and get spun around. For me to mount this motor right here in the center of this cart, I'm not going to do it like the stock where they kind of have this crazy little cradle where the motor sat in there and it's belt driven and all that. But the back end would definitely move with the engine, so you don't have to stiffen it the way I am. I'm going to basically mount the engine right here, and this will also get spun 180. So is the axle. All this is going to be connected. We're going to have a nice high-performance drivetrain. And you should notice that motor if you've seen it in my couple of other videos. The last was going to be the, what was that? The racing mower. Didn't like it, so I kept the motor. I love this motor. I didn't like that setup. But that's going to be included in here. We're going to have tail lights, headlights, turn signals, horn, PA system. We're going to add a little bit of everything to this little hot rod. And as you've already seen, I've kind of started goofing around. Right here is like a Momo imitation, like a racing steering wheel. One of my buddies gave it to me, and I mounted this for free. So I got a free wheel, the free hub. Got a little hub down here, completely free, and I mounted it for free because I'm a cheapskate. But how I managed to do that, if you see, we got the stock wheel here, and I wish I'd have filmed this part. It kind of makes me mad I didn't. Notice that? Nothing in there. What I did is I completely drilled a bunch of holes, then cut out the entire center shaft, which is now residing. See if we can get it out of here. It's residing in there now. Mounting this part with this face downward. I ended up taking this other adapter, marking everything, doing a bunch of drilling. I have 3 big wood screws coming up through the plastic. Then all around it on the back side, there's nothing but self-tapping screws. And I just haven't finished putting that in there yet. I've just been leaving it loose. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's a bunch of smaller black-headed self-tapping screws that go more than 3/4 into that piece. Turns fine, no problems. For free, I wasn't definitely spending the $275 what everybody was selling the custom wheel and adapters for. When I could do it in my shop for free, it should steer fine, no breakage. I shouldn't have an issue with that. But getting on track, we'll talk about this tank later, because otherwise I'm going to keep getting off track here. I apologize, guys. We're already about, what, the 10-minute mark, give or take. Right now, I got to get this motor off of here. The little centrifugal clutch has got to come off. The chain's coming off. I got to undo the wiring to my old kill switch, which is right here. I got to get this motor off because it is being sold tomorrow. I paid $120 for it like 2 years ago. Played around with it, less than an hour or two on it. Didn't like it, so I'm going to recover some of my money. I got 75 bucks on the way tomorrow. So why don't we go ahead and get this thing on the tripod and let's start taking this motor apart. Right, first order, get this engine off. I guess what we're going to do, get the old 10mm socket. Yep. Go ahead and crank these loose. I got to unfortunately take off this air box to get down to where my throttle linkage. Oh, I'm getting gas spillage, so we're going to figure out what that's about. Haven't really messed with this thing. Like I said, this has been some months ago. I forgot something. There's a reason why we quit using it. It wasn't the motor. But I noticed the other day, after I brought it in here, getting the shop more cleaned out, getting it ready for the winter months. So I have something in here to do. Even though I live in Florida, I cannot stand this cold weather. Alright, getting this thing off. Looks like, I'm going to guess, this valve's messing up or something. We're going to go ahead and slide it here to this off position. Something's going on. I have an entire air cleaner right now full of what looks like to be old fuel. So we're going to go ahead and get that off. Cool thing is I can see what I need to right here. And right here, you got the little hold down for your cable to operate your throttle up front. We got the, I don't know what you call this one. I guess we'll call it some kind of locker, I'm guessing, is what they call it. Everybody, if we can't know the official name, we'll just make one up as we go. Go ahead and crack this sucker open. Alright, go ahead and put that down tight. Since I am going to be selling this tomorrow, I don't want the new owner to lose this hardware, which I'll make them aware of that. I must have put a return spring on here, so I'll just let him be aware of that. I'll let him figure out if he wants to keep that return spring. Most of this, he's going to be using this on a log splitter, so shouldn't really do much for us. And that's going to be done. I guess we'll go in reverse order. Pluck all this right back. Alright, experiencing technical difficulties trying to do this. What I'm going to do is go ahead and put this back, and I'll get y'all fast forwarded, and we'll start the removal of this motor and clutch. Alright, what we're going to do here now, I guess it's time to disconnect this old kill switch I put in. Definitely, I don't want to get in y'all's shot. We're going to go ahead and just pop them two loose. And I got to remember how all this goes together. I only needed to hook the two wires together, but going back to the stock, so we can hook up the stock switch, I think it was a sensor for the oil I had to disconnect in order to use my kill switch, but that's stock. So that's back together, and take the old chain, keep the master link. That's done. We dropped the gear down there, so I guess why don't we move on to this side and let's undo the clutch and start getting this motor off. Alright, now what we got to take off this old centrifugal clutch. So I ended up getting just a huge pair of pliers, channel locks. What I'm doing is just holding a little, it's like a little ring right there. Thank God. I must have loosened this up, never realized what I've done already. Just trying to get moving. Now, what's the funny part? I've learned with these Harbor Freight motors, something simple as this right here is worth keeping. I remember I had to go to the hardware store, especially find this thread to fit on this particular motor. There we go. Got one centrifugal clutch, specialized hardware. I think I'm going to keep that just because I know how much of a pain in the neck it was to find. So she's coming along perfect. I'm guessing now it's just trying to find all the correct stuff we need here. Let's see, take a good guess at a 13. No, way off. Apologize if I'm getting y'all's ways, guys. Alright, the 16 is too big, so I'm going to say the magic number should be 15 here. It's funny how I use metric set along with standard and somehow know that it all comes together. Well, why don't I just set this a fast forward mode and y'all can go ahead and get a quick idea what I'm up to, just so that way I'm not going to be in your way. Well, alright guys, now if you notice, we got the motor plate exposed. This was just my simple motor plate. It was simple 2 bolts up here, 2 here. It was the stationary motor, and this had this little doohickey which went through the motor, had a spacer, came out the bottom, had a washer and nut on there too. And that basically, even with all this, it still caused a lot of rockiness into this engine mount. I didn't like it. Made the kind of noise I just didn't want to hear while I was driving around. It was bad enough hearing the loud exhaust at the end. So got that removed. Next step is going to be to come in here. There's 2 nuts and bolts that go through here. Same thing on this side as well. I got to get them taken out. Then in theory, this whole thing should just slide out. That's giving me back the complete stock, the whole stock rear. So we can mount an actual body back here, something that's going to look nicer, but I'm going to add some touches, make it my own little hot rod project. So I guess let's go ahead and get this prepped, get this taken out, then we'll leave this throttle line in. Even though I'm going to redo the pedal, I'm going to change it up a little from how I had it, and even rerun the line. I'm not sure if I showed it in my last video. Right under that rubber mat is where it comes through. See, get y'all a little closer. Goes from that pedal under the rubber mat and comes out right there, right in front of where this motor's just laying there, and it follows the frame rail back and looped around. Gonna keep that. All I'm gonna do is somehow we're gonna go up underneath and run it. I don't want any interference from the body or the weight of anybody sitting up here to interfere with that. So there's a lot of stuff. I mean, literally, I don't want to give away everything, but there's going to be so much to do on this project. The main thing is getting this crap out of here, and I got to get this motor off of here. So we're going to get this thing up on stands. So I guess before we go on to like step 15, and we should actually be at step 12, 2 or 3, give or take. It's been a long day for me, but I need to get this motor out of here. Well, see, there's an issue right there. I said there was 2 nuts and bolts. I guess there was only 1 per side. It just shows you how long ago I built this. And it's time to redo it and redo it right, because this is Chop Shop Customs. There is no just half-tailing anything. We're going to either do it right, not bother. So let's go ahead and get set up. We're going to go ahead and get this piece taken out, get this thing back to stock, clear off a lot of these parts I've got on here, and we're going to just continue on getting this thing built.